everyone to this session of the Inspector Insight Stories. I'm Dr. Folashade Otegbeye. I go by Shadi for short. I'm a associate professor of medicine with the Fred Hutch Cancer Center in Seattle, and a fact inspector, as well as serve on the fact accreditation committee. But today I'll be interviewing, or I have the pleasure of interviewing, Dr. Premal Lula, who is an associate professor of medicine at Baylor College of Medicine stem cell transplant program in Houston, Texas. He's a fact inspector for clinical and immune effector cell programs, and also serves on the fact education committee. Welcome, Premal.
Thanks, Shadi.
Thank you so much for giving your sharing your insights as a fact inspector over the years with our inspector trainees. So I will be asking you some questions about your experience, or some of your thoughts, or nuggets from your experience in conducting fact inspections, but particularly from the perspective of contingency planning and how to work effectively as a team. To begin with, let me just start off with, I'm sure you have served many times as a team leader for inspections. Can you share with us what you think, or what you see as the responsibilities of a team leader?
Yeah, thanks, Shadi. And yes, as you know, one of the jobs that's handed out to the clinical inspector often is the job of being the team leader. And FACT has detailed the responsibilities of a team leader very nicely on its website and its policies. However, I view the job as the team leader as being the pinnacle of the communication. So from me cascades the communication to the rest of the team, from the applicant and vice versa. And as a team leader, I take on that responsibility. And so amongst those tools of communication that we set up for an inspection are, for example, setting the agenda for the inspection day, where you have to work with the applicant site to make sure that whatever your inspectors want to inspect are on the agenda. Then setting up the day for the inspection, what time you would like to pause to meet with your co-inspectors, and then when you would like to end at the exit interview. And some of these are moving parts, right? So your inspectors might take longer in specific areas. And so you might have to be in constant communication with your co-inspectors during the day, and therefore with your applicant site as well. So I find it most useful to collect cell phone numbers from all the inspectors, save it on my phone, and have them on favorites for the inspection week or whatever day you are inspecting that site. And then I also find it useful to hold a pre-inspection Zoom meeting, have that pre-inspection night meeting with the co-inspectors, and then meet once with the inspectors, at least once with the inspectors on inspection day before your exit interview. And so these are what I view as the responsibilities of the team leader. And thus, I recommend to future inspectors to, when you are chosen to be the team leader, try to focus your attention on communication, getting cell phone numbers, staying in touch throughout, and that goes a long way during your inspection.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Now, so as the team leader, so you've done all of this pre-work before arriving at, I don't know, the site of the city where you're having the inspection, and then you're convening the pre-inspection meeting, like a lunch or dinner before the inspection, and you're all kind of getting together, and then you suddenly get a call from one of the inspectors. So maybe you're inspecting a site where there's an adult and there's a pediatric program, and then you get a call from the pediatric inspector saying that unfortunately their flight was completely delayed, or someone was sick, and we're middle of a pandemic. How do you handle that situation when you're suddenly out of an inspector?
Wow, that's a great question, and I wonder if I was chosen to do this because I live in Houston, and and I was affected once with a thunderstorm, not an official hurricane, and I couldn't leave on time for my fact inspection.
Wow.
And this was a 2-day inspection where I was going to inspect the adult site and the pediatric site. And somehow I managed to get there at 2 a.m. For the inspection. I was to start the next day, so I missed, just the scenario you pointed out. I missed the pre-inspection dinner with my co-inspectors. Thankfully, I did two things that in retrospect now I always do after that. One, I scheduled my travel bookings through the FACT appointed travel agent. and they were extremely helpful when I called and said my flight's delayed. The only thing I could find on the website got me into the inspection city the day of the inspection in the morning after 11 a.m. And that would not be sufficient time to complete both my inspections. But the fact travel agent found me a flight that got me there the night before, albeit super late, but I could still show up on time for the inspection. And the second thing that came very handy was I had done a considerable amount of pre-inspection review of this program. And so I told my apheresis and my processing inspector from the airport before flying out that I'm not making it for the dinner, but these are the areas I would like that, if you don't mind, that overlap with your areas, you could also let me know about in case I'm late, and then that'd be easier to catch up. And so I find that communication being key in avoiding, delays at inspections, and also if the inspector cannot show up. Now, a second scenario has occurred very recently where there was a tropical storm at the site where the inspection was going to happen. And the applicant site emailed saying they have high water vehicles, they can help move us around if we can just make it into town. And we asked FACT for guidance because this was 2 days before, and they said that the best thing they can say is whoever can make it will perform the inspection of that discipline and try to help out the other inspectors. Thankfully, we all made it, albeit a couple of our inspectors arrived late. We had communicated, just like you had said, our pre-inspection dinner, we kind of did it virtually. So we were prepared for what areas the other inspectors had told me. For example, the apheresis inspector told me specific things they wanted me to ask of the applicant side if they didn't show up. And so I was prepared with those questions. And so I guess to summarize that answer, my experience teaches me that preparation is key. Obviously, as the first point, communication is key. And finally, it is always good to have contingencies with your travel bookings, and using a travel agent sometimes is more useful than trying to do it on your own. And so to end with that, I'd like to say that if this ever happens to you in an inspection, I would strongly recommend you stay in close contact with your applicant site as the team leader, with your team leader if you're not the team leader, and also with your co-inspectors to tell them what you'd like get inspected at that site.
So that's really helpful, and I think that's what you mentioned. The communication it's helpful even when you're all there and on the day of inspection, when you start to observe that maybe time is like you're starting to run out of time, and then there's some things that you might be able to glean from your other inspectors that they might have picked up during the course of their inspection. So that communication is really key within the group. Now, the other question that I had is a bit of a provocative question. Is so to give you an example, so you're going to inspect the site. They have in their application, they've defined the programs or the units where they administer cells, for instance, the transplant or the immune effector cells. But then you arrive on the day of inspection, and then in the middle of kind of interviews or something, you discover that cells are being administered or are being infused to patients at a different site, sometimes even a different facility than what is indicated in the FACT application. How do you handle those kind of surprise additions to your inspection scope?
Yeah. So the first important point is to clear with the applicant what is the scope of the inspection, and they might have a different understanding from what you've been told by FACT. And if that's the case, the next step is to call FACT and say immediately while you're at the inspection site, saying that I found that this site has, for example, an off-site storage site for their cells, or another clinical site where they give immune effectors that's not part of the original application. Is it my understanding that I have to inspect this or not? I find the FACT communication is extremely prompt. Whenever I've had such questions on the day of the inspection, I find that my answers are almost immediate, and that particular coordinator is available for you for these type of questions. So that's your first step. Secondly, if your applicant, and you've been told by FACT, yes, you should inspect that, we don't have this on record as being a site that that they mentioned in their application as not being inspected, and you must inspect it. then you must tell the applicant that they would jeopardize accreditation if you don't get access to this and or risk a reinspection. And this is from fact policies. And so they would have to comply, or else you might do a reinspection or have you jeopardize their accreditation. And at the end of the day, if they still don't let you inspect the site, and there truly might be a miscommunication with fact and what the application was meant to say and what it ended up saying and what fact understands of the application, the best reply there is to be cordial, but detail in your inspection report exactly what you think should have been inspected and what your mind says should have been part of the scope of the fact inspection based on the information you have. And so the key here is to remain cordial, because at the end of the day, you are all colleagues.
No, that's an excellent point. And actually that addresses the question that I was going to ask you before about how you handle sensitive situations when the personnel at the site might be argumentative or might not agree with some of the issues you're raising. So that's an excellent way to answer even that question. Thank you.
Yeah. I find that being cordial is the way out. We are all colleagues. Today I'm an inspector, tomorrow I'm an applicant. And so
absolutely,
you should stay like Shadi, it's great to have inspectors who are super cordial, build a rapport with them. And that's really the end goal of this, is to collectively improve the quality of care.
Absolutely. Yes. Very true. Very true. Thank you so much, Primal. It was a delight talking with you. Thank you for your insights.
Likewise, Shadi. Nice chatting with you too. Bye.
Bye.